The Economy and Infrastructure Committee public hearing for the inquiry into the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the tourism and event sectors. Please ensure that mobile phones are switched to silent and that background noise is minimised. I wish to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I wish to welcome any members of the public that are watching via the live broadcast. My name's Em Veredigan and I'm Chair of the committee, and I'd like to introduce my fellow committee members present here with us today. Mr Barton, Mr Talamas, Miss Lovell, Mr Davis, Miss MacArthur, Mr Quilty, Mr Jepp. I'd like to call our first witness. To witnesses presenting, all evidence taken at this hearing is protected by parliamentary privilege as provided by the Constitution Act 1975 and further subject to the provisions of the Legislative Council standing orders. Therefore, the information you provide during the hearing is protected by law. However, any comment repeated outside the hearing may not be protected. Any deliberately false evidence or misleading of the committee may be considered the contempt of Parliament. All evidence is being recorded, and you'll be provided with a transcript at the end following the hearing. Transcripts will ultimately be made available and publicly posted on the committee's website. We welcome your opening comments, but asked if you could keep them to a maximum of 5 to 10 minutes to allow time for discussion. Could you please start by stating your name for our Hansard team and then begin your presentation? Over to you.
Hello, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Madison Fitzgerald and I'm representing Destination.
Thank you, Madison. Please start your presentation.
Yes, thank you. I thought I'd start off by talking about our business and our company. We always go under the radar and keep quiet with what we do. So I'd like to discuss what we do so that you have a broader scope of different areas of business events. So our company is called Destination and we've been in operation for 20 years. It's privately owned by my husband, Glenn Fitzgerald. He's interstate today, so I'm here behalf today to represent our company as well. We are the largest privately owned full-service event agency in both servicing Australian and global corporate clients. We create unforgettable experiences that incentivise, engage and reward people, and we do that anywhere in the world. From conception to production and staging, we bring programs to life seamlessly, all with our unique personal touch. One key point that we're known for with our reputation is that we have an extraordinary attention to detail in the events that we do. A few statistics, which we all love to hear. Every year we manage and create over 230 events. The majority of those were worldwide, in excess of 200. Moving delegates of 15,000 in travel sectors, 15,000 delegates, 35,000 travel sectors, and we would run and create over 20 online reward programs. We have many divisions within our company. We are the largest, as I said, in Australia. We have privately owned. Our only other competition is CI Events with Flight Centre. We have many divisions that we've spent building up over the years, which get broken down into incentives and engagement, business insights, specialised events, conferences and exhibitions, online reward programs and our creative services team. There's a lovely picture if you want to follow through. We're the team with a special touch, and we are famous for being committed and understanding the needs of our clients, and we have never lost a client in 20 years. So once we get them, they're very happy with the way that we look after them. We do world-class leading incentive and business insight programs. This is a new area that we have started in Australia. We've been researching it for the last 5 years, and we're very proud at the fact that we're the first in Australia and in the world to be running these programs out of Australia. It's a unique position that we have within our business, which is why some of the programs I'm sending through now, I didn't want to get tabled for IP reasons. We handcraft our employee experiences and we give imaginative programs that engage, reward, retain and educate. And that's the way that the market's moving now, more from the incentive side to one of education. So we have gone and scouted the world's best thought leaders from Caltech to Stanford to tours at Boeing to movie houses to NASA, and we do programs that educate and also reward employees in the big top corporate arena. So our business insight programs it's global, and we take them to destinations, but we also have been able to set some of those programs up in Australia, which I have in some of the paperwork that's coming around there. So our work, just in a little bit more detail. We also do creative ideation and prototyping workshops, which is a groundbreaking approach that aligns large teams within organisations and manages end-to-end delivery of employee workshops that aligns strategic areas for employees to focus within their company. And using that methodology within organisations, it helps prioritise collective ownership and vision. So we love to work in the space of strategy, and that's a lot of our work that we have within the corporate arena. The Incentive Business Study Program is the first of its kind service involving a complementary blend of reward, experience and actionable learning and insights. So how that works is we have executives are taken to key destinations around the world and in Australia, and also in Victoria, which some of the programs are being passed around as well, to engage in extensive world best practice workshops in marketing, design and innovation fields, and to receive experiential learning inspired activities. One of the key factors that we make sure we do is we incorporate world-class thought leaders within our programs, which is what the companies are looking for these days. To do that, it's taken many years of research and in excess of $300,000 of our own money to invest in that program. So we've always been a forward-thinking agency with a strong belief that businesses can evolve and thrive through inspirational education. So we approached Professor Farrelly from RMIT University here, and he was engaged to conduct a capability audit to strategise and innovate our service offerings. And that's how we came up with the programs that we run today. We also bring on board some other world thought leaders. One of those I've included in my presentation is Brian Matamore. He's the chief idea guy from Growth Engine, which has worldwide reputation. He has works also as instructs at Caltech. So when we take programs overseas, a lot were in America. Just prior to COVID, we had Brian come and present at our programs. And we also have our own in-house strategy director, Sam, who was top of RMIT in marketing, and he is involved in a RMIT grant that we have. So RMIT enabled a grant within our business to look at disruption within the automotive industry. So Sam's been working on that with us, and that has been published worldwide. Just briefly, I've got our engagement business incentive programs. I've got a few here to talk about. We do one in Adelaide with RM Williams. So we take some of our clients, they go in, they look at the bespoke services and the marketing capabilities within those organisations, and they're able to take that back and learn how they can adopt that back into their workforce to make them a more engaged and better employee. We have also had programs to Tokyo basing on future and tradition, or Queenstown inspiring adventure, innovation, culture and heritage. So, COVID comes. It's March. By the end of March 2020, our doors shut. We were the first to close, and we've been the last to open. Our business has been still running 18 months on with zero funding from any government authority besides JobKeeper. And maybe you might like to ask questions later about the effects of that, but I've just got a brief analogy here of there were business grants that were available, 50 million in the business grant area. Now, they were pre-approved buy-in programs for exhibition, conferences and conventions with a hub-approved panel that had 2 from tourism, 1 from the Convention Bureau and 0 from the representing the events division. To date, there's been 350 programs approved out of that 50 million grant from the federal government, and funding has been allocated of $8 million. So you might ask, why is there no further pickup? because the model's wrong. The model is based around convention bureaus, which is within the area of tourism. Events are not tourism, and that's why I'm here today to discuss with you very clearly that all the packages that have been going out have said events, yet it's been tourism based. So the convention centres are part of under the tourism board as well, and all of those programs relate to that. So we were unable to get any grants from those business grants. Then there was a boost program overseen by Tourism Australia as well for events. It focused on the domestic market and it also helped with companies to facilitate online marketing and distribution with creativity. However, due to COVID shutdown, the date for that to be qualified was the end of September for you to get things running, and we were in shutdown for 112 days. We were not able to qualify for any money. There's also been some state government funding that was put out in regards to travel. Now, we have a travel agency within our business. When the borders closed, we had funds in excess of $250,000 in deposits for just for hotel accommodation and destination management companies. We still have not had those deposits returned to us. However, we had to return that money to our clients. So within 2 weeks of shutdown, we had to pay out $4 million out of our bank account to pay back clients for deposits for programs that were cancelled. So there's been a big financial impact of that. We thought that we had to keep airline staff who work with airlines to get refunds back in for some of the programs. When the funding criteria came through, our company was considered too large to qualify for funding. Our turnover was 36 million. The funding cut off for any company over 20 million. We had a staff of 60 and staff of around 8 that were qualified in travel, and they worked non-stop to get refunds for our clients, yet we were ineligible for 1 cent of the travel aid funding because our company was considered too large. We're not a corporate company, we're not Flight Centre, we're a company owned by myself and my husband, who have 5 children and expenses. We had loans to pay, we had overheads. We also had a lot of staff that didn't qualify for JobKeeper, so we took on the financial burden to keep our team together because they're our families. Some of them have been with us for in excess of 20 or 30 years. So we took on in excess of another $250,000 out of our own money to pay to keep staff on. I'd just also like to say, whilst all that was going on, banks. Yes, all the funding came out for you to get loans for banks. Because we've worked smart and we've worked hard, we've been a business that has never owed any money or debt, and we never operated on an overdraft. So we would have up to a few $1 million in the bank at a time to secure a flight or to secure programs, because we have to forward book them 3 to 4 months in advance. And then when the client pays 90 days prior, then we can get our reimbursement. So we've always had a wonderful cash flow, but we have funded ourselves. To this day, we still have had 0 loan from our bank. And we've had a private banker, and we have never defaulted on 1 loan in 20 years. We are the role model for business corporate clients within our bank. However, I'm not sure whether you're aware, but banks have classed anyone working in events as a high-risk area, and they are still stalling it. Like I said, we have had to sell. So how have we kept open? They put all our they put our loans on hold. We had to then fund and sell our assets to fund ourselves personally, to fund our schooling fees for our children, to fund our home expenses, to fund business expenses, because the banks have not come to the party and have not authorised 1 loan to date. So that has been all this money out there, even with government approval, that has still, in reality, the banks have not done that. It's still up to their discretion. So it's been a huge financial impact. So my husband and I had to hit the ground running, working 16 hours a day, and we had to do a asset list of what can we keep, what do we get rid of, how do we keep our doors open so that we aren't another statistic that goes under. How do we care for our employees? We pay payroll tax. You know, we had a payroll of nearly $5 million. So we had to, when the pandemic also hit, all of our staff didn't want to take their annual leave. They didn't want to take their long service leave. So we've had all of that accrued. So to date, our 60 staff are down to 15. And the 45 that have left, we've had to also sell assets to pay for their entitlements when they've left. So some of them had entitlements up to $100,000. As again, I said, the bank has not given us, we had no loans because we worked where we didn't have an overdraft. So we've had to fund those ourselves personally as well. It's been at great expense to my husband and I, stress-wise, and to our family. We're just very fortunate that we had a little bit there. The main takeout that the bank has said is that we see that you have had some personal savings because we don't take off anyone. We've never had a handout in our life. We don't pay for anything. We don't get any money at all from handouts. They've said you need to use every dollar in your account. So don't keep any for a rainy day for your kids' school fees. They want to drain our bank accounts before they'll even look at giving us a loan. That's the attitude that the banks are at the moment. And that's to a client that's been loyal to them a customer for 20 years who's never defaulted on a loan and has always had a really good and excellent credit rating with the bank. So, there's just one final part I'd like to talk about, a bit of strategy. What we do best at is what we think we could really assist in helping the event industry move. I know that there has been some other, Simon Thulis has come in from Save Events Victoria. We work in a totally different space and we look at things a bit differently. So I'd like to share my thoughts, but perhaps you might want to ask me some other questions now, or would you like me to continue?
Look, what we might do is, because, like I said, it has been fantastic to hear from you. First, I want to congratulate you and your husband for building such an innovative business. I think it's fantastic to see, because obviously you can tell from your story, you've put in all your heart and effort and also come up with something fresh and new for the sector, and that's why it was so successful before COVID. What we might end up doing is we might actually hear from you, Madison, but because of the time constraints, the other witnesses scheduled today, and we might maybe put the questions on notice, if that's okay for the committee. Because I'm reluctant, because I think your perspective is different to some of the others we've heard as a family business owner. The personal impact it's had on you and your children, I think it is different from some of the other witnesses.
Chair, there's just a couple of things I just wanted to...
But the problem is everyone's got a question. So
I just want to understand
Mr. Talams has a question, Mr. Barden does, and I'm worried that I don't want to allow only one or two questions when we may have a number of questions. So I'm happy for you to conclude and maybe even offer if you have a solution or a proposal that you'd put, an idea you'd like to put to the committee to finish on that note.
Yes, thank you.
And then I might write to you in due course, and then hopefully you can answer some of those questions, because already it's been a very different presentation to some of the other peak bodies we've heard and other organisations. So please, Madison, please continue.
Thank you. I have been advised, I'm not too sure if it's correct, that to date we're the only business event company that has been presented at this inquiry.
No, that's not.
Oh, that's good.
A number of different
that's a relief.
Witnesses have appeared. No.
Business events?
No.
Sorry?
Business events.
Business events, yes. Yep, great. And as I'm sure, I'm not too sure whether you're aware, business events make up 80% of the income, of the $12 billion income into the state's economy. So being the sole representative here with the majority of the income coming in, I think it's really important to be heard and to for the committee to really take in what we're saying, because we want to come in, our strategy is to come in and let's rebuild, rather than we can't change what's happened, but we can certainly move forward and strengthen the industry. As I said, the financial impact to our business since our doors closed in 30th of March 2020, our income in the 18-19 year prior to that was $36 million. 19 to 20 financial year, it reduced down to 21 million because we had that 3 months where COVID hit. So instantly with refunds, and a third of our income for that year stopped. We lost 15 million in turnover. The 2021 financial year, we've been down to 5 million. Now, that 5 million has not been to do with any event. It's been 0 events and 0 travel programs, and we know that we won't get any international travel programs for at least another 2 to 3 years. So we worked very hard to start some more in-depth domestic programs, and that was also made difficult because of the shutdowns, and it is still incredibly difficult because of the shutdowns, where corporate confidence is very low because companies can't take the financial risk of travelling and get caught at an airport if there is a sudden COVID attack. So all of that on board. How we've got our $5 million is we're lucky enough to be a full service agency. So we hire app builders, web designers. We do a lot of KPI builds for some of the large companies like Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Range Rover. So we've been solely surviving on our tech savviness to keep some income, just the minimum in, just to pay the benefits of our employees. So it was a total reduction of 95%. So with all that said too, I'd just also like to add that because I was not on the books as an employee, I got a dividend at the end, depending upon how successful we were. With a family of 5 and expenses of around $300,000 to $400,000 in loans a year, we were only able to qualify for one job keeper payment for my husband. So you can imagine how much. I'm not going to go into details about how much we've had to sell to just keep afloat. So that's the impact. Now, I've had a good look at the Victoria Economy Recovery and Reform Plan for the next 4 years. And if you'd like to turn to that page, what I really was a stark notice to me, it's what was very evident to me is government stakeholders. So under the government stakeholders, we have a big list here of the Melbourne Convention Bureau, Visit Victoria, Regional Tourism Board and Business Events Victoria. So there, under the plan, there's $633 million allocated to government stakeholder agencies. Again, I'd like to say the $12 billion industry that comes in from events, 80% of that is from business events. So if you have a look at the business events side that brings in that income, and the other 20% is made of public and community and charity and festivals, $0 has been allocated. That is very disheartening. And when I put all the facts together, I was quite shocked. Okay, and then I have I'm missing the back page actually. Sorry, the next page is, I have what I think is at least a basic framework to work with or to look at, because I think the big problem has been is that, and it's been a lack of full knowledge and understanding. Like I'm certain that, with no disrespect, you probably weren't aware of the kind of programs that our business ran and the event space that we work in. And the event space we work in isn't major events like festivals and charities. It is business events. So I'm not surprised that there hasn't been any representation, and I'm not surprised that the convention bureaus and the tourism boards have been the go-to, and the advisory have been the advisors to the government to spend on events. But I'd like to clearly say there's a clear distinction between events and tourism, and business events are not tourism. They help assist tourism to fill hotel rooms and to put seats on planes, but they're not bringing that income in for the corporate sector, which is the majority of where the money does come in. So we need to fix that problem, or we're going to have an industry that has very, very few surviving. So what put our heads together, and what we thought would be good was to have a events division within Victoria that would come under the Honourable Minister. And rather than, I know his title at the moment is Sports, Tourism and Major Events, so I'd like to just have that as events. And within that events, we actually have some industry practitioners that work within that industry, that understand that industry, that can advise the minister and at least have a say, so that it isn't filled again with already government-backed and funded agencies like the convention bureaus and tourism boards. So it needs to be ones with events. So I've thought about it, being fair and having a really broad scope of advisors so that everyone's represented, because at the moment there's zero representation for events. So just a little example is, but even because there is a crossover, having maybe one allocation of tourism in, so that you can, because there is a lot of crossover and a lot of beneficial relationships between the two. So one from an experiential and staging agency, two from business events, because business events does bring in 80% of the money into the state. So, and one of those positions could be brought in with Becca. I know they already sit on the two, and they actually are underneath the tourism board as a government, semi-government authority already. Not-for-profit and public could have a representation, and charities. So, and we at Destination would really like to, if we get the invitation, to help assist in that framework to set up something that's really going to be workable and beneficial for the state, so that we can move forward and take up the opportunity to be groundbreaking in this events department. And I've been sending through some of the other programs that we've adapted. We'd like Victoria, and Victoria says it's the events state, we'd like Victoria to go a step further and say we also run the best business programs in the world out of Victoria. So we'd really like to have that platform within the Events Victoria, hopefully, department set up so that it can be showcased. Not only do you showcase your major events, but we can showcase our business events, because they are with thought leaders from around the world. They have a wonderful reputation and they are groundbreaking, and no other company or state in Australia is doing that. We've been loyal to stay in Victoria. We considered moving interstate and opening our company there. Our heart is in Victoria, and we'd really like to stay here and platform our business out of that still. And we'd really like to be given a chance to work to help with that framework. And to do that, though, I think there is some urgency in putting together a little task force, and we would again be happy to advise or give advice in any way that is asked of us, to talk about grants, support, and working capital and COVID insurance. Now, I understand that there are other interested parties that are already talking about that, so I won't go into that. But I've finalised off on the proposed crisis funds with a turnover. I know that of what might be considered if the government was to come in and help save the events business. There's been zero funding. Like I said, there's 533 million allocated to tourism and zero to events. So I've got a little table over that might help keep the doors open of funding to help keep some businesses that do business events open. I know that Save Events Victoria had a scale as well, but it didn't represent any business our size. So I've put a different scale in just for your perusal.
Thank you very much for that, Madison. Like I said, quite a
You're welcome.
comprehensive overtake and a different perspective from a business events side of how COVID has impacted. I want to thank you and Destination for your quite detailed submission and presentation. I have a lot of questions on my mind. I know the fellow committee members do. They're all itching. So what I might do is, following this meeting, we'll list those questions to send them to you. Just so you know, whatever you answer will be publicly, what we'll list it on next to the transcript of your evidence. So then it will be made public. So whatever you respond will be public. It will not be confidential. Just letting you know that.
I understand.
So
thank you.
Keep that in light when you're preparing your answers,
Yep.
because there will be a number of questions. Very sorry to hear your experience and the really human impact of COVID-19, but also definitely on the business event sector has been disproportionately affected, and it's still affected, and it will probably be one of the last sectors to recover from this pandemic. So thank you to you and to Destination for all your work and for putting in the time. I can see it's quite a detailed presentation, and for your ideas and input.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Very, very helpful.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
appreciate it greatly.
And I hope I hear back from you.
No, you will.